So what the VA has done is they've put certain safety measures, or backstops I like to call them, in place, because what happens if interest rates do this over the next 5 years? Well, we're going to talk about that right now, because that's where really people start saying, okay, I can start logically thinking about the hybrid arm, but you still haven't told me what's going to happen to me if rates go up for the next 5 years straight. And have they ever gone up for 5 years straight in history? We're going to talk about all that right now. So first, we're going to talk about caps. There are caps in place. The VA sat down and they said the first thing we want to do is make sure if somebody's in an adjustable rate mortgage on a VA loan and interest rates skyrocket, that they're not caught unprepared and out on the street. So the very first thing they did is there's a 1% annual cap. So I told you today you could get an interest rate of 2.25% at low VA rates. And let's just say that happens to be a 3-year hybrid. Okay? That's what that is. So, what is it? It's 2015. All the way through August of 2018, you're at 2.25. Loving life. Payments, you know, a few $100 maybe lower than it would be at your 4.25. You're 2% lower than the going fixed rate. Life is great. You don't care. The Fed raised rates at the end of 2015. They raised them again in 2016. They raised them in 2017. Now all of a sudden, your 3 years is up. No matter how much the Fed has raised rates, you can only go up 1%. So somewhere in the year 2018, the highest you could be would be 3.25. Still a point lower than it would have been 3 years prior when you bought your house at 4.25. Now, if rates continue to go up into the next year, again, because of a 1% cap, what's the highest I could go the very next year?
4.25.
Bingo. He studied math at college. I did not.
Yes.
4.25. And so you guys get the math here. Now the same thing holds true. Everything that goes up must
Come down.
come down. It cannot go up or down more than 1% a year. That's your annual cap. There's also a 1% lifetime cap. Take that back. 5% lifetime cap. That'd be great if there was a 1% lifetime cap.
Yeah.
We'd all be doing the arm loans, and I wouldn't be doing this video. Okay? But there is a 5% lifetime cap, which means if you start at 2.25 today, and you are the one person I've ever spoke to that stays in their loan for 30 years, makes 360 payments at some time over the next 30 years, no matter what interest rates do. This is true. I teach this way all the time. Let's say we hit full-blown Armageddon in this country. It's not even just wars, but it's zombies running around the street, and everything's just gone to heck in a handbasket. You're never going to be any higher than what rate?
7.25.
7.25. Now, nobody sitting here wants a 7.25 rate. We don't. And I'm here to tell you it's probably not going to get to that point, because if you remember back a few minutes, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac tell us what? Every 3 to 5 years we're doing what?
Getting out of our loan and getting a new one.
Exactly. And now, interesting that the two most popular VA hybrid arm loans are the 3-year and the 5-year. You think they just made those numbers up? They didn't. They looked and they said, well, wait a second. If people are refinancing every 3 to 5 years anyhow, why don't we go ahead and give them a fixed rate for the next 3 to 5 years? Bingo. That's what happens. So zombies, bring them on. I don't care, because I'm not going to be in this mortgage when that happens. Okay? Matter of fact, if zombies come, we all have much bigger problems than what our mortgage payment is. So I just kind of use that for an example. We've got our annual cap of 1%. We've got our 5% lifetime cap. What's the lowest your interest rate could ever go if you start at 2.25? Trickly. I don't expect you guys to do that. I'm here to tell you, generally speaking, this is as low as you're going to go. If we really wanted to get into the mechanics, and there's another video that maybe we could share at another time, you could possibly, in some circumstances, go a little bit lower than this. But generally speaking, where you start, at least today, at 2.25, you're not going to go a whole lot lower than that. But if you were to start on a 5-year, our 5-year rate today is 2.75. I am here to tell you that you could drop all the way to 2.25. Another training for another time. But this is what I love about the VA hybrid loan. The VA put thought into this. One other thing the VA did, these are your caps. One other part about the VA hybrid loan that is very important to understand is the index. And I'm going to talk about the index right now. Index. We're getting a little complicated, so I'm going to try to keep this basic for you guys. But it's the CMT. There's all sorts of indexes. There's foreign indexes like the LIBOR. I think that's the London Interbank Overnight Rate or something like that. LIBOR. CMT is the Constant Maturity Treasury. We're talking about U.S. Treasuries. It's a U.S. index. It's a safe, stable index in the United States. The reason the VA has picked this index is because we talk about rates going up and down. They're just like the Dow Jones. You guys heard of the Dow Jones or the NASDAQ? Financial markets go up and down. Interest rates go up and down. Indexes go up and down. Right now, the CMT is really, really low. It's well below 1%. That's why the VA can offer such low interest rates on their VA hybrid arm loan, because the CMT is low. The VA picked the CMT because it's one of the most stable, non-volatile indexes there is. Volatility is what people get afraid of. They don't want to think that their rates and their payments are going to go like this. So not only do we put you at a 1% per year cap, we've also got an index that's very stable. Now we just made an assumption here a few minutes ago that we could see our interest rates go up once a year, every year. I forgot to say that. Not only can you go up 1% a year, they can only change one time per year. Some of those other loans, the non-VA loans, can change every 6 months. In some cases, even more frequently than that. So you don't have to worry about your payment or your rate changing at all for that first 3 to 5 to 7 years. And once you do come out of your fixed rate period, only one time per year can your interest rate start to change. Again, very, very safe and stable index. The CMT Index, over the last, I don't know, I want to say the last 10 or 15 years, I don't have my chart right in front of me, but it looks something like this, okay? We'll just call this 0. We'll call this like 6.5. I don't necessarily remember, but what you'll notice is, and we'll just say over the last 15 years. Over the last 15 years, there's been ups and downs in rates like we've talked about, but this index has continued to go down. We talked to a veteran the other day, this is probably about a year ago. He started at like 6.5. That's what rates were. I got in the mortgage industry back in the year 2000. Rates were around 6 3/4, 6.5%. He got a loan somewhere like in 2001, 2002 at 6.5%. It was an ARM. He got an ARM loan then, and he's still on that exact same ARM loan today. Call us up, we can share some of this proof with you. And he's ridden that ARM loan all the way down to the low 2s. Didn't have to refinance, didn't have to pay closing costs, because he's ridden this down. Now the reality is we all have to come to the conclusion that if we turn this thing upside down and we got our rate here at 2 1/4 and it starts to go up, well then what happens? Well, your payment's going to go up, possibly. Your rate's going to go up, most likely. But again, 3 years later, you can do this VA streamline refinance, which we haven't really talked about today, but most people are familiar with, as many times as you want. So what we find is most people, right around the 3 to 5 year mark, if their payment's going up and the rate's going up, they refinance into a new mortgage. Back to another economics class that I really think you guys should understand. Why do you think the Fed is looking to raise rates right now? Why does the Fed raise rates?
Because we're doing better as a country.
Doing better as a country. We no longer have this extremely high unemployment. People are back to work. Housing prices have stabilized. People are building and buying again. So when the economy is doing well, the Federal Reserve normally increases interest rates. We talked about that housing collapse when everything flipped upside down and was bad. The Fed started slashing rates. So what's really cool about the VA hybrid ARM loan, when the market's doing well like it is now, yeah, there's a chance interest rates are going to go up. Everything that goes up,
Must come
it
down.
must come down. I'm trying to do that to you guys, but I'm telling you, it's reality. And so, yeah, the Fed's going to raise rates for the next handful of years. We could see a chart that goes opposite of that last chart we just had. What happens when the Fed's raising rates and the market's doing well? Home values are better. Now we aren't talking about all of our friends and family whose home's upside down, but we've got neighbors who bought their house a year ago and it's now worth $40,000 more. So guess what? When rates go up, people start calling us up and they want to do what's called a cash out refinance. And they want to take that $40,000. Well, to get that $40,000 out of their house, they have to refinance. If they have to refinance, they're off the ARM and they're refinancing again, hopefully into another ARM. Because I'm here, as I told you, very passionate about this. building a house right now. I'm getting an arm on my house. I'm refinancing the one I live in. I'm getting a 5-year arm on it. Unfortunately, I'm a civilian. I didn't serve in the military, and so my arm is not nearly as good as the arm that the eligible men and women in the military are able to get, but it's still an arm loan that has enough safety measures in it that I want to get that loan.